Hey everybody, welcome. It is Wednesday, July 10th, 20 days to the bar exam. Tracy, how you doing?
Hanging in there, working with a
Yeah,
lot of students, trying to keep
yeah,
everybody sane and looking forward and getting ready and excited to go and prove their competence.
yeah, that's exciting, isn't
Yeah, it
it?
is.
Just under 3 weeks, and this is the week I think when we see the most growth, typically for people. It's an exciting week from a coaching standpoint because this is when all the work really starts to come together for so many. And it's a great opportunity for the people that are studying to see their own progress. And then we can move into a slightly different phase of this, the review for a lot of people. Today is a benchmark day. What we mean by that is that we benchmark the 10th as a date by which we'd like you to be making the transition into the review part of your study. If you're not there yet, don't panic. You've got plenty of time. It's just a nice goal to have in mind. And I think a lot of our students are right on track with that. So that is encouraging to us. What we're going to do, we've got a fair number of announcements and information because there's a lot going on prior to the bar exam, as always. Then we're going to take a section. We sent an email out earlier this week and we said, what is it that's holding you back from success on the bar exam? We got some great responses, and Tracy and I will talk about those and comment and give you our sense of what's going on there. And you may have something to add to that. If you're on with us live today, go ahead in the chat box and type in there what's holding you back from success. And if we have the time, we'll get to your comments as well. So that's what we've got in mind. I think we ought to just jump into it, don't you?
Yes, let's go.
Okay, so the first thing I want to make sure everybody knows is that, as has been my tradition, I have done what we call preview videos that look backwards at the last exam in each jurisdiction, and then I look forward. I guess that's the preview part, obviously, and give my sense of where I think the exam is going. These are often called the prediction videos. I hate that word, so I try not to use it, but I understand that's how it's often perceived. The videos are about a half an hour in length, and right now we have posted the Florida and the UBE videos. They're up in your courses. One of the things I want to point out about these videos is that they represent my best thinking about where I think the exam is going, but I have no inside information. And typically I'm pretty accurate with these, but I certainly can whiff. And states like Georgia, I always hold to the end because it's easy to whiff in Georgia. I have no idea what those guys are doing sometimes. In any event, we will put those out there. And we don't want you to rely solely on these for what to study. I think, Tracy, you would agree. We want people to study everything. But if they're looking for some differentiation, maybe something I've said in that video would be helpful.
Yeah, I think it's more a comfort video to make sure that you're studying the right things. You're covering at least the things that you're talking about predictively. But I agree to focus on just those things would be a grave error.
Yeah, and we don't want you doing that. That's part of the reason we wait till this late date to release, because we don't want somebody fixating on a topic because I think it's likely to be on the exam, because it might not show up at all, and then you haven't wasted your time, but it's not as useful. So check out the videos. You will find them in lesson 1.5, no matter what course you're in. That's where the video will be posted. And again, Florida and UBE are up right now as we speak. California will go up later today, Georgia probably tomorrow. The other thing that we've done with those is that we now have put in timestamps. So if there's something specific that you want to find, just scroll down from the video. You'll see a timestamp and you can figure out where in the video you want to be. And if you have different views about what you think will be on the exam, awesome. It's great. And I'd love to hear your thoughts, because sometimes these are my wild musings at 3 a.m. or my spidey sense. And it gets a little dicey. We'll see. Although I was pretty accurate in February, gotta say.
You
Yeah,
were.
a little scary, but there you go. All right, so that's the preview videos. The next thing I want to talk about is the Supreme Court, but not the way you think I want to talk about it. What I want to say about the Supreme Court is, of course, their term ends every year right before the July bar exam, which creates no end of consternation for bar takers because there's a series of decisions. And up until the last few years, it was pretty level and we didn't have big shifts and changes. But obviously, over the last couple of years, with a new court, we have had some pretty revolutionary decisions that have come down right before a bar exam. And the question is, will those new decisions be tested? There's a logistical answer to this, and the logistics are that the bar exam that you will be taking in 20 days was written 6 months ago or longer. What was that Johnny Carson character where the big turban? Sarnak. I was going to say cognac. Sarnak. Unless you are Sarnak and you can predict the future, the bar examiners don't know what the court is going to do, and therefore they can't really write questions that would implicate those decisions. And yet, bar takers obsess wildly about these things. In this last term of the court, obviously there was a huge decision about presidential power and immunity, and there was another huge decision about the Chevron doctrine, which had to do with administrative law and deference to administrative agencies. Those are both very significant decisions. However, for the bar exam, they're not going to be on this test. I'll just tell you that right now, because there was no way to know that, and the bar examiners didn't write questions around that. However, there were a couple of other decisions that might have some implication because they were building on previous decisions. These are the cases dealing with social media and homelessness. The social media cases are basically talking about laws passed in Florida and Texas that claim that social media, Facebook, Twitter, or X, as it's now called, had the obligation to police the material that was going out and that they were being biased against conservative viewpoints. Now, that's been an ongoing debate and discussion. And in fact, last year, Florida had an essay question that focused on that problem, dealing with an elected official's Facebook account. My point is, something from those cases might show up on this exam, but not because of those cases. It would just illuminate what's already out there. And then the final piece was the homelessness. There was a decision, it was called Grants Pass, Oregon, that had to do with whether or not local governments could make decisions about homelessness and homeless encampments. And it's historically been viewed as cruel and unusual punishment to take away things like blankets and pillows. But the court said, no, that's not cruel and unusual punishment. That question of governments being able to control their public spaces is often tested on the bar exam, not because of the homeless problem, but because we typically get a question where a local municipality says, you can do this, but you can't do that in our public space. So you might see something there. Now, having just briefly said all of that, we have put together a very short video in your constitutional law module in which we go through the major cases of the last term, and we explain them in very high-level thought process. And just to give you some comfort and know that it's there. And so I want to encourage you to at least watch it. The video, I think, is less than 20 minutes. The other interesting thing to me, beyond the fact that it's about con law, is that we used one of our AI bots to be the voice of this particular lecture. And the bot's name is Lawrence. Any of you know your Harvard constitutional law, you'll know who that Lawrence might be. In any event, fun. The con law video is one that you probably should watch just to have some comfort about what came down in the court's term, but it is not going to be tested. I think we can safely say that, don't you?
Jackson, will Roe v. Wade and its progeny be tested, do you think?
Yeah, that was the other part of it. Obviously, that was in the prior year's term. I think reproductive rights are not something that the bar examiners in most states want to touch, with two exceptions. I think that Florida might test it, and I think Georgia might test it. And the reason for that is that the bar examiners in both of those states are decidedly more political than the NCBE, which does the uniform bar exam, and California, which is political, but a different kind of political. Florida said last year that they would consider all the recent decisions decided 3 weeks before the bar exam to be testable, which was really a strange thing to say because they didn't test. As it turns out, they tested none of that. And I thought it was a sleight of hand, a distraction. And it seemed to be a deliberate attempt to rile up bar takers. I don't know what it accomplished at all. But having said that, last year, maybe they were signaling that this year they would test those decisions. So I think you need to be aware of them. And so we have also on that same page, and I appreciate you asking, Tracey, we have a video about last year's term that discusses the implications of the decisions, certainly in reproductive rights. It's so crazy to me to be testing this subject when we don't really know the parameters, and it's such a major change. The other big change, of course, was the Lemon test and the Establishment Clause. Certainly could be tested. And I think if you saw either reproductive rights or Establishment Clause, you probably need to answer under the current court's jurisprudence, as different as that is from what we used to teach. It's a weird time, isn't it?
It is a weird time. I'm not sure that the bar examiners would go after something that's such a hot button ticket as reproductive rights at this point. It's so unsettled. But
Yeah,
of course, I
yeah, I
defer to
agree.
you. I just don't think they're
Well,
going to go there on it.
I hope you're right. I don't think it should be tested. And I think most jurisdictions, certainly if you're in the UBE, I can tell you it's not going to be tested. The NCB has been pretty clear that this is not something that they want to do. But I think you got to be really careful in Georgia and Florida and recognize that you're dealing with bar examiners who seem to have a political agenda, frankly, and want to curry favor with the conservative legislatures in those states. And so it could happen. So just be aware of it, and we'll see. I hope I'm wrong. So there you go. That's your con law update for Wednesday, July 10th, 2024. Speaking of the NCBE, Tracey, you and I had the opportunity to spend an hour with Marilyn Wellington. She's the Chief Strategy Officer of the NCBE earlier this week to talk about the next generation bar exam. It was an interesting conversation, wasn't it?
It was interesting to get the global view from NCBE's perspective.
Yeah. We recorded the conversation. We're doing some editing now. We'll release that as a separate podcast episode. Marilyn was very gracious to come on. She answered our questions about what the next generation exam is, what it tests, how it tests. What she didn't answer, what she wasn't willing to answer, was what was going to happen in California in 2025, what would happen with states like Florida and New York, whether or not they would adopt the next generation exam. In next generation exam news, two developments. One is that Texas said, we think we're going to do the next generation exam in July of 2028, but, and you got to love this, maybe we won't. We want to hear from the bar and the public about whether you think we should be doing it. What? This is your job. If you're in the Texas Supreme Court, do your job, right? Make the decision. And it seems like it's 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Illinois is the only large jurisdiction so far that is absolutely committed to the next gen exam. Texas would be the second if they came along. I think the problem with this kind of in out is that if you're planning to take the Texas bar in 2028, you have no way of knowing what the test is going to be yet. And I don't know how long this process will go before they make a decision. So they're actually talking about maybe we'll give the next gen and then we'll give the Texas short form exam in addition, which is nightmarish. You went to law school in Texas. That's just not a fun test. If they resurrected it zombie-like from the grave. Interview with the bar examiner, I guess, not the vampire. Right. So that's a little weird. And then Nevada came out this week and said, hey, we don't know what we're going to do either. We're not sure we want to go to next gen. They were going to follow California and use the California Kaplan test, the one that's now apparently going to be litigated by NCBE. So that's on hold. So now Nevada said, we'd like public comment, which is really their way of saying, we don't know what we're doing yet. So if you're taking the Nevada exam in 2025, that's an interesting thing. And I would just say, keep your eyes tuned to California for February 2025. There's a lot of ways that could go. They may be able to negotiate something and have Kaplan write a test for them. They might end up giving the legacy exam as it's always been done, except they don't have the money to pay for it. Another possibility is maybe they just don't give an exam in February. That's not beyond the realm of possibility. I don't know. And when I say I don't know, really, nobody knows what they're going to do in California, least of all the California bar examiners.
And that hooks in Nevada too, since Nevada kind of piggybacks on California. So
Yeah.
be careful, look around, make sure you understand. You can go to the NCBE website
Yeah.
and see what they have to say currently if you're in one of those jurisdictions.
Yeah. So a lot of stuff happening there. If you're a 2025 bar taker, keep your eyes open, and we'll, of course, keep you informed as we go along. And we'll prepare you, regardless of what the exam is, we'll have you prepared. It'd be funny if Kaplan's questions show up. I just have to say, Kaplan got their questions from SMH, which was our predecessor company, and we got those questions. So we'll see what happens. The next thing I wanted to talk about is that we get a lot of questions this time of the season, if you will, about what tools do we offer that might be helpful as you're doing that last phase of study. And I want to go through several of them with you, and Tracey's going to put the links up, hopefully, into the chat box, and we'll put them into the show notes for those of you that are listening or watching on replay. But I wanted to go through these quickly and give you a sense, because we do have a number of tools and products that I think are very helpful when you're trying to study quickly and efficiently. The first of these is what we call our multi-state video nutshells. Now, the multi-state video nutshells are a series of videos running 20 minutes or less per subject, in which we take our written nutshell and we recorded it, again using an AI voice, but at high speed. And we then put the text up on the screen, also at high speed, to help you get through the key salient points of the 7 MBE subjects. You can purchase that if you're an existing student at a discount. If you're not a student of ours already, we'll put that link up as well later on the show notes, and you can purchase those. Now, one of the interesting things is we price this in a way that you can buy the whole set of 7 at a huge discount, or if you just want a nutshell for a specific product, you can buy the specific product only. So lots of options there. I like this tool for a quick review of a subject or all of the subjects, and it's designed, again, like all of our products, to go to the non-conscious mind. So a useful way to get all of that material. It's really the big picture of each of the subjects. So that's multi-state video nutshells, and it's fun, actually. I'm pretty sure, I think it's pretty sure it's an AI voice. It's not my voice that's doing it. I don't think I sound like Alvin and the Chipmunks. All right, next tool you've heard us talk about a lot. It's called Bar Maps. Bar Maps is actually 3 tools in one. It's a series of mind maps for every subject on your bar exam, regardless of what jurisdiction you're in. It's also a fast finish audio, in which we do speed up my audio recording of the video lectures so that there's no sound gap. So it runs about double speed. And then the third tool is that we take the full video lectures and we timestamp those so that you can find particular topics. So if you wanted to jump into the hearsay section of evidence, for example, you just click on it and it's right there and it takes you right to it. The real value, I think the big value of Bar Maps right now is getting the mind maps, because they're basically done for you maps for every subject. And there's multiple levels of those, and they're on computer. Tracey, you've done some coaching on mind mapping. You have a lot of students that you worked with that have bar maps, right? And have adapted them.
Yes, and are learning all the time how to use them better. The problem with using the generated mind maps is to use too many words. And so the goal there is to get rid of the ands, the these, the buts. The buts can be important, but to get rid of those conjunctive words and really hone it down so that you can look at it quickly and know what the concept is.
Yeah. And bar maps really helps you consolidate that. So again, you put the link up, Tracey. People can check that out. You can buy bar maps just for the state or for multi-state or altogether, and it's a pretty reasonable price. And again, with all these products, you can use Klarna, Affirm, or Afterpay and spread your payments. Stretch your payments out over several months. So that's a good way to do it. Next tool is a webinar, pre-recorded webinar called Abundance for the Bar Exam. If you're struggling with your mindset right now, if you're feeling anxious, nervous, depressed, disappointed, then this is the webinar for you. It's 90 minutes long. It's based on the Abundance for Life that Paul Sheely did. he and I had the chance to work on this and adapt it for the bar exam. It's my favorite webinar that I've ever recorded. A lot of tools, a lot of techniques, a lot of resources there. It's 90 minutes well spent, and it's very inexpensive, and would encourage you to go ahead and sign up and get it. It's on demand. You can watch it as often as you want. I've received nothing but glowing feedback from people when they've gone through it. But if you're struggling with your mindset, this is the webinar to watch, because it's not just platitudes, it's really practical things that you can be doing. All right, next on our list is what we're calling 5 for 5. This is the opportunity to add personal coaching with Amanda, with Tracey, or with me, 5 individual coaching calls for $500. Now, our normal price is $1,000 for those calls. Big discount on that. There is a coupon code, which is 545. 5, then the word 4, and then 5. So Trace, if you could put that in, that would be great. The question we get, is there enough time to use it? And the answer is yes, absolutely. Amanda, Tracey, and I all have capacity to take calls, and these are half an hour one-on-one recorded calls. We will discuss your writing of essays, performance tests. We will discuss MBE. We'll discuss mindset, whatever's on your mind. So it's a terrific way to do this. And we do find at this point, people either saying, I think I could use some feedback, or I need more help. I've gotten some and I need more. So 5 for 5, it's the 5 coaching calls for $500. Then we've got some workshops that we always have available, and I think there's still time to take advantage of them. In fact, I know there is. We've got excuse me, my voice here. We've got an MBE workshop. These are all 2 sessions in which you are working with one of the coaches. I was doing an MBE workshop call this morning. That is an opportunity to look at selective intuition, to practice some questions, to improve your MBE performance. And that's a 2-call package. And then we've got a performance test workshop, again, a 2-call package to work on performance tests, take you through the process, and then actually have you write and submit a performance test. And last, but certainly not least, we have an essay writing workshop, which is an opportunity, again, to see what the FLA writing system looks like, and then to incorporate it and actually do an essay and get feedback on it. So each of these workshops, 2 sessions, you can pick the coach that you want to work with. And yeah, there's time to do all of that, don't you think?
I think there is.
And the real value of this, honestly, is that you can pinpoint, I'm having trouble with MBEs, or I'm having trouble with performance tests, or maybe it's my essay writing, and just zero in on that. And if you're having challenges in all 3 or in 2 of the 3, I would just do the 5 for 5, right? And get the coaching calls that way. So no matter how you want to do it, there's opportunities there to upgrade. I think that it is not too late, with 3 weeks to go, to add any of those tools to your study toolkit. And I would really encourage you to look at all of those. If you have questions about them, let us know. But they are good tools to have at the end, right?
Very much. By now, you should know where your strong points are and where your weaker points are. And this gives you an opportunity to zero in on what your weak points are and get some immediate help. And I do mean immediate. We can get you in within a day or 2.
Absolutely. And yeah, the feedback we get after we do these is really positive. People are like, oh my gosh, this got me on track or back on track. So please avail yourselves of that opportunity. All right. Am I missing anything administratively? Did I get it all here?
I think so.
Okay. Then let's turn to this week's topic, which was, what's holding me back from success on the bar exam? I ask this question every exam season at about this point, because what I find is that there are a lot of things that seem to be invisible barriers to success. We're at this point, as I said earlier, where this is the week when a lot of folks make really great strides, and we're certainly seeing that. But we also know this is a time when sort of the little demons up on your shoulder, and they start really pestering you about the test. And so we wanted to call some of that out, talk about it, and get it out there. And we got a lot of responses. I've just taken the generalized ones. So Tracey and I are going to try and deal with these. And give you our thoughts. And then if you're watching live today and you've got something else that's holding you back, if we don't mention it, feel free to put it in the chat box. We'll try and deal with it. All right, you ready, Tracey?
Yep, let's go.
Okay, so the first one, we said, what's holding me back from success on the bar exam? It's relegating myself to the notion that I can pull this off. In other words, believing that you can do it here at the end. Tracey, let me turn that to you first. What would you say to somebody that says, I'm just not, I have to relegate or reconcile myself to the notion that I can pull this off?
This is where I go to my Post-it notes that I have sitting on the bottom of my computer. And the one that's talking to me right now about this question is, it says, feel fear, act anyway, and take courage with you. So what that means is it's okay to acknowledge that you're afraid of this thing coming up. It's okay to acknowledge your insecurities and your anxieties. So it's fine to take that in, to take that fear in, to hold it, to get used to it, to get comfortable with it, and then keep working, keep your eyes looking forward, act anyway, keep working on your studies. Just lean into this anxiety, lean into those feelings, lean into that fear. Take courage with you means you have the courage that comes from this whole program, from everyone around you. I see the people that are on our webinar today live. These people care about you and these people want you to be successful. We want you to be successful. The program that we've designed wants you to be successful. The universe wants you to be successful. And the world of law needs you to be successful. It needs you in there. So take courage with you. You're not alone when you go in there. Feel the fear, act anyway, and take courage with you.
Fear was a big through line in all of these. I think this person was also talking about this idea of, maybe they didn't call it this, but I think it was the imposter syndrome, right? I'm not good enough to pass. I don't think of myself as being good enough to practice law. And so I'm not sure I can pull this off, right? I have to put myself in that mindset to think I actually can do this. And that's particularly difficult when you've taken and been unsuccessful on the exam, isn't it? It's just, I call it the big bag of rocks, but it's right there.
Sure, that's your super ego. That's what we've talked about that little parasite that lives right behind your ear and keeps telling you you're not good enough, you're never going to pass, you know, you're stupid, you're lazy, you know, you're wasting your money, you're wasting your time. And it's so important to get into a conversation with your super ego and to thank it for all the things it's done to protect you in the past, but to tell it to go sit in the corner for now and let you manage your own life and manage this process.
Yeah, I think there's a part of this where that superego says, oh, you're not good enough and you'll never pass the bar and it's just not going to happen. And so when that happens, when that little demon's up on your shoulder like that, or the parasite that's in your brain, you really do have to confront it. You got to talk to it. It's a bully. And like most bullies, it'll back down if it's confronted. But if you let it go, it's going to get louder and louder. And then you're going to end up at the bar exam with this thing roaring in your head. And it's really tough at that point to hear the voice you want to hear, which is the non-conscious voice coming through. There are, I think when somebody's got this question of imposter syndrome, we've got a couple of exercises in the course. They're in the very last assignment in your course and worth checking those out. But also the Abundance for Life webinar that we talked about earlier. That's a great way to get some practical experience and tools in dealing with that particular problem. So that's a good one. I think that that student probably speaking for a lot of people with that question or that comment. The next comment we got, what's holding me back from success on the bar exam, is this student wrote, fear of failing and not believing I'm good enough. Man, Tracey, you just described this fear process that people go through. It's a big deal, isn't it?
It is. And in the chat, somebody also put that the most negative impact on bar studies and the bar exam in general was dealing with their own, what this person called shortcomings and stupid mistakes. This is exactly what we're talking about with the superego, the judgmental words that go with it. What shortcomings? You made it through college, you made it through law school, you've been studying, you are ready to go. What shortcomings are you talking about? And stupid mistakes, get rid of the word stupid. They're just
Yeah.
mistakes. They're
Yeah.
mistakes and they can be corrected. And they can be corrected through study, through working with your mind map, through understanding why you made the mistake in the first place. But really pay attention to those judgmental words that are flowing through. I'm not good enough. I'm stupid. I don't belong here. I don't belong in the world of law. Those types of things. And those are the types of things that we're telling you to confront and suppress.
I think this idea of I'm not good enough is just nonsense. I had a conversation with a potential student today, and she was talking about how she didn't feel good enough to pass. And I said, wait a minute, think back to your kindergarten friends. How many of them went to law school and took and passed the bar exam? And she said, none. I said, well, there you go. That's your answer, right? You are good enough. You've already accomplished a great deal. Passing the bar is the end of that process, but it's the start of this whole other process. And so you really have to take the approach that you are good enough to work through and get to this point. So this is not the time to lose faith, I think is what I'd say. All right. That fear of failing, not believing I'm good enough. Tough one. All right, the next answer to the question, what's holding back from success in the bar exam, is fear, overwhelm, mental and physical fatigue. We already talked about fear, but what about overwhelm, Tracey? How do you deal with that sense of being overwhelmed?
For me, I would pull out my mind maps and I would just use one at a time. I wouldn't try to get the whole stack together and say, oh my gosh, this is so much. I wouldn't take the whole outline. I'd photo read one section and I'd maybe do an essay on that one section. I would break it down into easier segments to work with at a time and maybe intersperse them. It's really hard to take con law and then put property on top of it or wills and estates or something like that where the fact patterns are very complex. Maybe you intersperse that. Maybe you take a criminal law fact pattern where it's a story that you're going to understand, or you take a landlord tenant problem, or you take a torts problem and you intersperse those. So you just put it all down, pull it all out, and just study with what's in front of you.
Yeah, I think one of the things, if you're a photo reader, you use the 3-2-1 to reset yourself, you get your breathing going. It's a good thing to do before every session of the exam, or even multiple times. I suggested to somebody today that they schedule a pit stop after every 25 MBE questions where they do just that. They just bring their anxiety level down with some breathing and working. I think the overwhelm part is this notion that you got to do everything and you got to know everything. I got a lot of people say, I got to know everything. That's just not the case. You don't need to know everything to pass the bar exam. And when you try to start setting the bar that high, I got to know everything, you're inevitably going to fall short. So is it an escape hatch that says, oh, I expect to fail, so I'm going to just put in something that I know I can't do? That is self-sabotage when people start doing that.
Sure. And if you've followed the process that we've very carefully laid out, you have in your mind what you need to pass this exam. And you have the tools accessible to you so that you can pull it out at the right time and answer the questions correctly, write the essays, write the MPTs, whatever it is you need to do. It's there. If
Yeah.
you've been doing the work and you've been following it, it's there. And you just have to, we say this every time we get on here, you have to trust the process. It works.
Yeah, and that's really it. And the overwhelm comes when you think, I got to do everything. You don't. What you really want to do now is narrow down to the things you don't know. And it's okay to be uncomfortable because you're learning things you don't know, but don't beat yourself up over it. That's the other part of it.
Right. And every time you see a question now on the exam that you have dealt with before, you're going to be that much better able to answer it. There's only so many things they can ask about. And if you have done your work and you've done it thoroughly, you're going to know. If you've done your mind maps and you've made them relational, you're going to see those buzzwords and you're going to know how to take it along. If you have learned the FLA process, then you know how to follow that formula. The same with the MPT and finding your voice in the MPT. That's half of the battle, is just having the formula in front of you and knowing the voice that you need to write in.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. So look, and if you're feeling overwhelmed or you're feeling fear, again, the abundance for bar study, great. Group coaching is great. In your online course, if you're a registered student, at the very last assignment or the next to the last assignment, there's what we call self-care videos. These are a series of 5 and 10-minute video recordings that we've made that are designed to address those problems. So you can just look at the title, run it, and you can run it as often as you want. And they're very effective, and really would say, if you haven't looked at them, check them out. I think they're useful. So that's the other part of it. And it's important, finally, I think the final thing I'd say about this is we're still 3 weeks out. People act at this stage like the bar exam is going to happen tomorrow. It is not. 3 weeks is a very long time, very long time, as anyone on the coaching staff will tell you. It's like, oh my God, there we go. So
yeah, if you work 6 days a week and you put in 7 or 8 hours, you have 48 hours a week times 3. You have 150 hours. We only tell you need 200 to 250 hours to study the whole thing and get ready. So you have the time. Even if you are working, this is the time, though, to go to your employer and say, I need a few extra days, or I need some half days. This is important. I need to concentrate on it. We are dealing with a number of students that have so many challenges with work and study, care and study, aging and needy parents and study. This is a time that you have to ask for and be selfish about your own time and take the time that you need. Have those difficult conversations with your beloved, with your children, with your parents, with your friends, and with your employers. And then also with yourself and the God of your understanding, that you need to have this time. But
yeah,
you have plenty of time. You have plenty
do.
of time.
You do. And every day you'll get an email from me commenting on some part of that. Today's email, which I didn't get out quite on time, but I think is on its way now, may already be out in your inboxes, is called Less Hustle, More Flow. And I want to give a hat tip to one of our students, Candy, who actually coined that for me. And I was like, ooh, I like that a lot. So today's email, Candy, is for you. Less hustle, more flow. Really in that same idea. Then we got a lot of comments about physical health and fatigue. I'm not going to lie, I'm tired too. I think everybody gets tired at this stage. I get invigorated when I have these calls and I get to talk to students and do the work, but I know that it's a grind. There's no question. And if you've got a family and you got work and you're trying to study, it's a lot to do all at once. So the things that we would tell you there are really common sense. Try and start setting your sleep schedule and waking schedule for the bar exam. Try to eat better. Try to get out, get some exercise. For me, exercise is walking to the Paneras to have a cup of coffee or a sandwich. But just do something to get out and change your environment a little bit. Tracey, I know you water walk, right? That's your thing.
Water
It's
walk
really,
and swim. Yeah. And it's
yeah,
great because when you're doing those types of activities, those repetitive
yeah,
things,
yeah,
you can free your mind in one sense, and then you can fill your mind in the other sense. And it's a great time to fill your mind with positive affirmations when you are doing something
yeah,
that makes your
yeah.
body feel good too.
Yeah. And mental health is don't dwell on the negative. I don't know what else to say. If you think about nothing but the negative, you're going to get the negative. If you saw my message on Monday, it was talking about imagine the possibilities, which was a saying of one of my first mentors. And she was so great at this idea of mental health. You imagine the good possibilities instead of the bad possibilities, right? We can all imagine in law school, we call it the parade of horribles. I can imagine all the bad things that can happen at the exam. If that's what you focus on, I can tell you from experience, that's what you'll get. If you focus on good things, this is the start of my legal career. This is my chance to show the fruits of all of my labor for all these months. You're going to get good things. It's really that simple. And I find people are surprised when bad things happen, but all they've done is talk about the bad things, right? What do you do with that? So in any event, and if you're really struggling with mental health, talk to somebody, whether it's us or a friend or a family member or a counselor, but don't deal with it alone, right? Don't just stew on it, because that doesn't do you any good at all. So
Absolutely not. And if you are feeling that things are going seriously awry, make sure you get some help immediately.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
This is tough. And you can
Yeah,
always reach out to us if that's the case. But remember your emergency go-to places too.
yeah, absolutely. All right, and then the last of the comments, and again, these were representative of many comments that we got, was what's holding me back from success on the bar exam is getting in my own way by looking at all of the projects, the problems, and the issues surrounding me instead of keeping my eyes on the goal. That's a good one, isn't it?
It is. I'm looking at the screen right now, and we have, like I said, several students on here. And one
Yeah,
of them has a profile picture up, and it is in professional dress. I am so impressed by this student adopting the professional dress as the profile picture. It is leaning into and living into the professional competency exam that you're going to be taking in 3 weeks. And that's part of keeping your eyes forward. What do you want to do on the other end of this?
yeah,
This particular person has made a very clear statement in this picture that they want to be a practicing attorney. And that is so important to visualize that. I love that. I hope that that profile picture stays up and that student looks at it a lot, because there is nothing like visualizing success, manifesting your own success, being the hero of your own story at this. So when you are getting in your own way, what that means is that when you could be looking in a future way, when you could be looking at manifesting success, you're instead horribilizing things.
yeah,
What happens if I don't pass again? You're terribilizing things. Oh my gosh, it would just be terrible to open up that email and see that I didn't pass again. And when you do that, you cannot get out of your own way then to visualize your own success. So every
yeah,
single morning, take those first 5 minutes, close your eyes, visualize you in professional dress sitting down for that exam and kicking it and kicking it. And then get up and start working. Do some exercise, eat healthy, drink lots of water right now, not so much alcohol, not so much other stuff, not so much soda. Get your body as healthy as it can, because it's a tremendous drain on your body to do that exam over 2 days. Yeah, just this is the time to put it all together, to get the
yeah.
flow going.
Yeah, I call it the clean office syndrome, dealing with the work you've got to do. Now, if you say, today's a great day to organize my desk. No, it isn't. Not the time to do it. The other thing is, some people, and I have to say, I wake up at 3:30, 4 a.m. That's just what happens. I'm an old guy. When that happens, I could lie there in bed and think about all the things I've got to do, all the calls I've got to get, all the essays I've got to read, whatever it might be. I have learned over the years, just get up, just get up. So Tracey and I will be texting at 4:35 in the morning, because you're the same way. How'd that happen? And so we just get up and get going. And there is a real sense of accomplishment, isn't there, when you get up and you hit it and you just say, man, I'm getting this done and this done, instead of saying, I'm going to get up and putter around and organize my desk and file my papers and do it. There is a time for all of that. It's called August. For right now, get the stuff that matters and get it done and get it off and get those things off your plate. And I think that's what this particular comment was getting at, is that we can really distract ourselves with trivia here. And the other kind of trivia that we get is the explain to me X rule for the 12th time of whatever it might be, and digging into the minutia of the course. And it's not that I don't want to talk about all of that. It's my life's work. Of course I want to talk about it, but this isn't the time for that. You don't really need to be in the minutia. What you need to do is have a goal, a plan, and that you're working towards that. And I think when you start getting stuck with all of the marginal stuff, you really miss the real point of, I need to get better at writing and answering questions and working through the material.
If you get up and you don't look at your phone, you don't see what the news was overnight, you don't look at Facebook or Instagram, you don't go to TikTok, you don't email your friends, you don't text, you just leave it alone and start working pretty much
Mhm.
right away. It's amazing how efficient you can be. It's as the day wears on and all these distractions come in and get us that we are distracted away from our work. So those couple of hours first thing in the morning can be
Mhm.
absolutely wonderful if
Yeah.
you get in the habit that you don't have to be connected to the world during that time.
Yeah.
Think about that. You wake up, most of us now, we look at our phones right away. And it's like we have to know what's going on, or we turn on whatever news program we like, and then we get all sucked into what's going on in the world right now. For the next 3 weeks, what's going on in the world is going to have to take care of itself. You have to take care of what you have in the next 3 weeks and let
Mhm.
everybody else deal with all the other stuff.
Yeah. And look, there's a lot going on in politics. There's a lot happening with the court. There's a lot of a lot. There's a lot with weather, right? We know that, and our thoughts go out to those of you in the storm's path.
Mm.
But in all of those things, do what you can, keep your focus, and keep working. And in fact, we've even got a video we made about studying in a hurricane, because coming from New Orleans, I've been through that more times than I care to tell you. But ultimately, what we're really saying is for the next 3 weeks, you've got one task, really one job to do. Do that job and keep your head down. It'll all be here waiting for you when you get done with it, I promise. But for now, that's the goal. So there you go. Thanks for those comments and questions. They were great. And 20 days to go. A lot of time, a lot can get accomplished. Just keep working and pressing. Check out the tools that we talked about earlier. Make sure you stay in touch, join the group coaching calls, and have a
Yeah.
positive have a positive expectation. It's going to be great. You are going to do great. You have worked hard. And if you haven't worked hard, okay, you got 3 weeks. Get it together. Let's go. Make
We're
it
here.
happen.
Yeah, we're here
So,
for you. So just let
yeah,
us know.
absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks, Tracey, for being here. Appreciate it. Thanks to all of you who are live on the call today. And for those of you watching on replay, we appreciate your time as well. And we will be back to you next Wednesday and continue to work. And again, if you're in our course, make sure you're checking out the daily emails and videos. They are designed to help keep you on track as we go along. With that, we'll say goodbye. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye, everybody.
Good studying.